What's up guys, so currently we have Ruan Mei and Blade's rerun banner active, and the next two banners to drop will be Dr. Ratio and the one and only Kafka. I just want to go over if it's still worth pulling for Kafka on her rerun banner and how good of a character she is in the current state of the game. Before we get into that, please subscribe to the channel for more Honkai content, would really appreciate it, and drop a like if you enjoyed this video. Okay, we are all aware that Dr. Ratio will actually be a free character given to all players once his banner drops due to the generosity of the Honkai devs as they won an award recently. Therefore, no one would really be pulling for Dr. Ratio unless you're either a whale or a Dr. Ratio stan, but for most of the player base, you will be left with Kafka and contemplating whether you should pull for her or not. Now, as this is her rerun banner, a lot of players may have already picked her up, and thus you would be asking yourself whether or not you should pick up her Eidolons. And to that I say, in my opinion, Eidolons are nice but not necessary at all. I would rather have a whole other character than my character being able to deal some more damage or provide something small to the team. Even for Kafka stans like myself, it would be better to save for Black Swan than Kafka's Eidolons since they are likely going to pair well on the same team. Now, for those who actually started playing after Kafka's initial banner left, let me just run through her kit so you have an idea on what she actually does. I know you want to pull for her design, but it's good to at least know what she does. So Kafka has a standard basic attack to a single enemy, nothing special about it. Kafka Skill now deals lightning damage equal to 160% of Kafka's attack to a target enemy and lightning damage equal to 60% of Kafka's attack to enemies adjacent to it. If the target enemy is currently receiving dot, all dots currently placed on the enemy immediately produce damage equal to 75% of the original damage. So Kafka Skill isn't a full AoE attack, it only deals damage to 3 enemies at a time and deals the most to the one you select. Also from this, you will realize Kafka is reliant on having a high attack since the damage from the skill is dependent on attack. That being said, Kafka is very easy to build as well as the other dot characters since they only want attack, speed and some effect hit rate. This in contrast to building the common DPS like Jingliu where you need crit damage and crit rate, it's like a breath of fresh air. So building Kafka should be a lot easier and you will get her set done fairly quick. Moving on to Kafka's talent, which I find pretty cool. After an ally of Kafka uses a basic attack on an enemy target, Kafka immediately launches one follow-up attack and deals lightning damage equal to 140% of her attack to that target, with a 100% base chance to inflict shock equivalent to that applied by her ultimate to the attacked enemy target lasting for 2 turns. This effect can only be triggered 1 time per turn. So for those scenarios where you don't need to use a skill from your support because the skill is still up, you would use a normal attack on the enemy and Kafka launches her follow-up attack on the same enemy, which deals a decent amount of damage which can help go through waves somewhat quicker. This talent alone allows for some wacky team comps, such as sticking Kafka on a team with Topaz, as Topaz would like follow-up attack characters on her team. Also, there is the Kafka follow-up attack build being a thing, but of course that won't be the best strat with her. Moving on to Kafka's technique now. Immediately attacks all enemies within a set range. After entering battle, deals lightning damage equal to 50% of Kafka's attack to all enemies, with a 100% base chance to inflict shock equivalent to that applied by her ultimate on every enemy target for 2 turns. So a pretty simple technique, to be honest. With this one, it has some very good range in the overworld and it looks pretty cool whenever you do use it. But yeah, you'll just inflict some shock onto enemies as you enter the battle, which does some damage as the battle starts. Now the ultimate, and the reason why I believe Kafka is always going to hold some value. Deals lightning damage equal to 80% of Kafka's attack to all enemies, with a 100% base chance for enemies hit to become shocked and immediately take damage from their current shock state equal to 100% of its original damage. Shocks last for 2 turns. While shocked, enemies receive lightning dot equal to 290% of Kafka's attack at the beginning of each turn. One of her traces now ties in with the ultimate. When the ultimate is used, enemy targets will now receive damage immediately from all currently applied dot sources instead of just receiving damage immediately from the currently applied shock state. Kafka is essentially a dot detonator. With her ultimate, she sets off any dot effects that are on enemies. So if you have a team consisting of dot characters like Sampo and Gwynaifen, where Sampo applies wind shear to the enemies and Gwynaifen would apply burn and Kafka applies shock, all of the effects being triggered from Kafka's ult will deal some really good damage, and from my experience it is very satisfying to watch the dot damage shred through enemies. With this then, it is right to assume that Kafka will always be a significant piece in dot team compositions. There won't be many characters similar to Kafka. The only other one I can think of is Topaz, where she is the significant piece in the follow-up attack compositions. So characters like Topaz and Kafka will always hold value in contrast to just a great damage dealer like Imbibe the Lune or Jingliu. Over time, a DPS like those two will fade away. but with Topaz and Kafka, they will always be able to provide something more than just good damage dealing numbers. Trying to pick up Kafka on her rerun might be the best opportunity as well. Since I mentioned already, Doctor Ratio will be free. There is always that situation where you need to decide between the new character that has dropped, that will most of the time be pretty good, or the character having their rerun. This is a first that Hoyoverse is giving a banner character for free, so you will literally not have a better time slot to pull for Kafka. Also, Black Swan is coming out in 2.0, being right after Kafka leaves. I'm not too sure whether Black Swan will be first or second to release, but just saying you can really build a serious dot team relatively quickly if you have the resources for it. New players should be able to grind through the game and will have enough, but for those who started a while back and already have Kafka, I suggest to pull for Black Swan since I believe she'll be a great partner with Kafka. Now if you're thinking I really don't want to use Kafka on a dot team and maybe run on a hyper carry team with a few supports like Tingyu and Nasta, that is completely viable and is actually my go-to with playing with Kafka. Of course using Kafka on a dot team would be the best team for her, but a Kafka hyper carry team works perfectly well as well. Going over the light cone situation, Kafka's signature light cone will of course be her best in slot as it is for majority of the 5 stars in this game. At S1 increases the damage dealt by the Weara by 24%. After every attack launched by the Weara, their speed increases by 4.8%, stacking up to 3 times. If the Weara hits an enemy target that is not inflicted by Erode, there is a 100% base chance to inflict Erode to the target. Enemies inflicted with Erode are also considered to be shocked and will receive lightning dot at the start of each turn equal to 60% of the Weara's attack lasting for 1 turn. So an increase in damage, increased speed allowing for more dot damage as you have more turns with Kafka, and at the start of each turn you deal shock damage. Considering the fact that attack, speed and effect hit rate are the most important stats for Kafka, this light cone gives quite a nice boost in speed, so it syncs well with her kit. But as always, there are other viable options such as Good Night Sleep Well with a few super impositions. For every debuff the target enemy has, the damage dealt by the Weara increases by 12 to 24%, stacking up to 3 times. This effect also applies to dot. However, this is a gacha light cone, so it won't be the easiest to have this at S5. There is also Forato, which increases the break effect dealt by the Weara by 16 to 32% and increases their damage to enemies afflicted by shock or wind spear by 16 to 32%. This also applies to dot. So running this light cone would be great for Kafka on a dot team with a wind dot character being Sampo or Black Swan later on. Just one more thing regarding Kafka's relic situation now. The difference between Kafka's initial release and her rerun shortly is that now Kafka has a dedicated dot relic set, which is really good for dot characters. Before, the only viable relic set was the lightning set, which is okay for Kafka but did not enhance the main aspect of a kit being dot. With the new relic set as a 2-piece, it increases attack by 12%, which is perfect for Kafka as she needs high attack, and at a 4-piece, for every dot the target enemy is inflicted with, the Weara will ignore 6% of the target's defense when dealing damage to them. This effect is valid for a max of 3 dots. So you would want some dot characters on the team, and this set will enable a 18% defense shred on enemies, which is crazy. Along with that, the relic set from Simulated Universe 8 is ideal for Kafka also. It increases the Weara's attack by 12%. When the Weara's speed is equal to or higher than 135/160, the Weara deals 12 to 18% more damage. This set looks like it was literally made for Kafka, as you will for sure have between 135 to 160 speed, and the attack increase is great for her. So yeah, you could say pulling for Kafka on her rerun is a much easier choice to make in contrast to her initial release, as she literally has relics made for her now, and the team you would build around her has become a lot more stronger. So if you're thinking about pulling for Kafka, I will suggest to definitely go through with it if you weren't already due to her phenomenal design. She just seems like she will be sticking around for a long time, and it's Kafka. Design wise, she is perfect. Well, that wraps it up. If you're going to be summoning, best of luck. If you guys enjoyed the video, then please subscribe to the channel for more Honkai content and drop a like. Also, drop a comment on whether you think Kafka still holds up in the game today and whether you will be summoning or not. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.